Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Easy 11 Plus live lesson. Someone's writing in the comments, OMG, it works. I mean, this is not the first time you've been here, Tony Cotton. If it didn't work, then what are you doing in this lesson right now? I mean, what are any of you doing here really? But that's another question, a little bit philosophical. Today we're looking at descriptive writing, so how to write really good short descriptions of things. And these are skills that you can use in straightforwardly descriptive tasks, such as you have to describe this picture, you have to describe this scene, you have to describe this person, but also in your stories to make them really good and to give yourself the best possible chance to show all your wonderful skills as a writer. Don't forget to check out the links in the video description. You'll also find that the worksheet for today's lesson is linked there. And don't forget to check out the various useful things on my website, and they're all linked down there as well. Okay, enough. Let's get started with today's task. So as you can see, we've got four, as you will have seen if you looked at the worksheet, we've got four little descriptive tasks here. And you can see, what have I done? Right, it made it like difficult for me to show them all. But help is at hand. There we are. That'll work. So we've got four tasks here. We've got something that begins, I didn't notice the bear until, and then you've got a small amount of space to write in. And then we've got one that has yet the moon in the middle. That's the second one here. Then we've got something that begins with a stifling fog coated the bloody blah, whatever you want. And then we got something described with some dialogue and describing a human interaction. I wish I could tell you, she said, her eyes, dum dum dum, what were her eyes doing? And you've got complete choice with these, as long as they make sense in some way in response to the stimuli, I'll go with stimuluses, that I have set for you here. There are a few little guidelines at the top, which you'll have seen if you've seen the worksheet. Write a short description in response to each of the following prompts, using no more than the space provided. So that's just to make it clear to you that you're just writing a little description. You're not trying to write a complete sort of anything, a complete paragraph, let alone a complete story. You might like to consider the following tools, among others. So this is just a list of ideas. So imaginative and unexpected use of a range of senses, okay? Of course, I talk about it all the time. Unexpected means that just do the obvious thing. The water was wet, that is quite obvious. The water smelt of salt, a slightly less obvious way of thinking of it, and maybe more interesting. The water smelt of something else, even more interesting. Simile and metaphor, you know what those are. Not that everything should be a simile or a metaphor, that would be very tiresome, but these are things that you can use. Personification, same applies, really a kind of metaphorical device actually. Onomatopoeia, I've said though avoid bang, whoomp, squish, and so on. So these kinds of, this way of whether you actually use block capitals or not, these kind of block capital onomatopoeias, the kind of onomatopoeias that you might put in their own one-word short sentence, can look a little bit childish, and it's best to avoid those. You want a slightly more subtle kind of onomatopoeia. We'll think about that as we go. And variations in sentence structure. So you don't have to do all of these things. It's just a list of ideas that you might consider applying in case you're short of things that you think of. Why do people always ask this? Sangat says, put your hot quality high. Oh no, they're replying to somebody else, that's why. Yes, if it's blurry, that is not the transmission. That is at your end. Oh yes, it is. So go down just on your YouTube, below where my face is right now, there'll be a little cog symbol. And if you click on that, there'll be an option for quality. Go to quality and set it as high as you can with your computer and your internet connection. That should sort out the blurriness. And if there's a limit on it, it will just be, I'm afraid, because your internet connection or your computer aren't good enough to deal with the wonderful high resolution of this lesson. But yeah, that can happen. But there's nothing I can do from here to improve the visual quality of what you're seeing. I hope my speech isn't too wildly out of sync today, by the way. It's never perfectly in sync, that isn't the way that these things work. But I know last week it was really out of sync. I think it's better this time. Right, let's get cracking. Let's have a go at some of these. I'm not planning to spend ages today. I just want to, give you some thoughts for starting a description, because we've done some other short things. We've looked at starting a story and that kind of thing, and we've done some other kinds of descriptive exercises This is really free. You can do virtually anything with these. If you come up with some really good answers, I may not see them in the instant comments here because there will be lots of people writing things and so on, but do put them in the proper permanent comments under the video once the live lesson is over, and then I'll have a look, and any really good responses, of course, will earn Easy 11 Plus pens if they're really good responses, so long as I haven't already sent you a pen before, obviously. Okay, let's get cracking. So I didn't notice the bear until, okay, so the bear until. So something is going to make me notice it. And what makes me notice it really must be one of the 5 senses. If we go back up on the worksheet, you can see use of the 5 senses, because I'm going to notice it either because I hear it, because I see it, because I smell it, because I taste something pretty unlikely, to smell it. Oh, it's a fantastic window outside, rainbow outside the window, pity I can't show you, but if I turn the camera around now, then I won't get it back lined up and it'll be a nightmare. Anyway, where are we? And a touch, I don't think I mentioned, feeling. So we need one of those things to tell you where the bear is. So really any of the senses, probably apart from taste. So I didn't notice the bear until, so the really obvious one is sight, okay, until you saw something. So let's do something a little bit different. You might hear it. It's also quite obvious, the crunch of its paws on the leaves or something like that, or until it roared at me. Can we do something less obvious, until you felt something? What you really might feel the ground vibrate. But what happens if I'm feeling a little bit... let's be a little bit grisly with this. Why not? I didn't notice the bear until... Oh yes. Oh, let's get rid of the lines here so I can type in. Until its claws, what were they doing? Well, what might bear be doing its claws? It might be doing something to you. Until its claws began to something the skin of my back. Okay, began to something the skin of my back. So the kind of idea we're going for is scratch. So bear's claws going like this. Okay. Began to, so a good verb is rake, began to rake the skin of my back. You know what a rake is, it's used for pulling up leaves in the garden. The problem with that is that fingernails or claws raking skin is a bit of a cliche. It's something that people often say to describe scratching. So maybe that, even though it's a metaphor, I might avoid it. I might just say began to tear, so to tear the skin of my back, or if it's kind of working hard to try and tear it, you might say to tear at, which carries the implication it's kind of attempting it, not just succeeding. So the claws began to tear at the skin of my back. Okay, and then of course it's a bit late to do much, so I didn't notice the bear until its claws began to tear the skin of my back, by which time there wasn't much to do. There was little to do. There was little for me to do. Emphasizing it's me, you know, the other person it's being done to. There was little for me to do except run away. Too late to run away, it's already tearing your back. See, so I'm always trying out ideas and asking myself questions. What could I do? Could I run away? Probably not. It's just going to grab me. It's going to swat me away and whatever. I'm stuck here. So with little me, what can I do in this situation? All I can really do is be pretty unhappy about it. How can I show my unhappiness? I need to show my great pain, except to arch my back. Come back to that. My back can scream, but as I told you, this is going to be grisly. What? Skin of my back, arch my back. So can you see that there's a repetition here between back, and we don't like that. So to arch my spine, little for me to do except to arch my spine and scream. Okay, this is gruesome, but I quite like it as well, in a sort of, you know, it's quite fun sort of way. I didn't notice the bear until its claws began to tear at the skin of my back, by which time there was little for me to do except to arch my spine and scream. Crumbs. Okay. There were lots of nice things here in the comments, less gruesome than me. So I didn't notice the bear until a furry paw touched me on the head. Yes, from SKG. Really nice. You could do a little bit more of that. That's very short for the answer space. I'd say it was great, but you could improve it. So a furry paw touched you on the head. Okay. Can you do anything more interesting than touched as a verb? Until a furry paw settled upon my head. until a furry paw brushed my head, until a furry paw wafted above my head. Something that's a little more interesting, a little bit more specific, and maybe a little less obvious as well, to get the reader thinking, and when they think, they engage more with what's going on, and maybe are more likely to believe it's actually happening. In terms of things actually happening, what's happening right now is I'm starting to feel really, really agonisingly hot. So excuse me, I'm just going to open the window here right next to me. There we are. Who knows what outside sounds are going to come in, but at least, I'm not going to keel over from overheating. Right. What else could I do with this? I didn't notice the bear until, let's do the stimulus again. Let's do a less grisly one. I didn't notice the bear until. So when might you notice the bear and why might you not see it? So I might not see it because I was distracted. So that's maybe implied slightly by the one we just had, because I was looking the other way and then it comes to my back. I didn't notice, maybe it's because it's nighttime and the bear is dark, maybe it's a black bear. So I didn't notice the bear until, so if it's nighttime, and I don't see it because it's black, so it's probably quite a dark night. Why is it dark? Maybe it might be because there's no moon around, it might be because it's a bit cloudy, and that's covering the stars, and maybe the stars and the moon. So, you see what I'm thinking? I'm just asking questions, thinking through. I didn't notice the bear until, right, well, if it's dark, because the clouds are hiding things, then why would I start to see something? I start to see them because there's a gap in the clouds. If there's a gap in the clouds, a load of starlight or moonlight, let's say starlight, it's more interesting, so there'll be a gap in the clouds, a load of starlight will come across. If a load of light comes across in one go, that's like it's washing over me. So I didn't notice the bear until a patch of starlight, washed over me. No, it didn't wash over me, it washed over the bear, but it washed over much more than the bear, I think, unless it's a very specific patch of starlight. Until washed over. Why does it wash over? We have to clear the stars aren't moving that bit. It's not clear to the reader. If we confuse the reader, we have to be clear so we're not confused, because we're trying to communicate, not just confused. No, not at all confused. We want to communicate. Washed over from between the oopsie daisies, between the clouds, and lit up its eyes. Let's be more specific. And found the whites of its eyes. And now we can really imagine this. I think we can imagine the light moving across. Sort of light, fairly faint light if it's starlight. Coming across, but it's been so dark, and now suddenly there's a patch of this light that's come into this clearing in the forest, maybe, and suddenly, where before there was nothing, you see two little white rings, the whites of the eyes of this bear, staring at you. Maybe not as scary as, creative writing teacher, but something close to it. Okay, right. What have I got going on in the comments? Until salty drops of saliva splash down on me. Really effective. Why salty? I wonder about why the saliva will be salty, but apart from that, really, really good. I like that, evocative. The clouds until, I didn't notice the bear until the clouds parted and let starlight in. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Yeah, you're going with that idea. I didn't notice the bear until I heard loud footsteps. Oh, that one's gone. Too many people posting their ideas, they're going past too quickly. The reason I can't read any of the comments is because people are posting the same idea again and again and again, which means they go flying past and disappearing off my screen in my software before I can look at them. So anyone who's posting the same comment more than once, you are stopping me seeing your and everybody else's comment. Rama, I didn't notice the bear until a claw stabbed me. A wave of terror rushed over me. Its chestnut brown fur was so beautiful, its eyes emerald green like a jewel. I died from the scent of death. Okay, lots of great ideas in there. I think that's probably the drawback of it. The ideas, there are so many ideas and they don't necessarily quite belong together. So you say, I didn't notice the bear until a claw stabbed me. Okay, a wave of terror rushed over me. Okay, those ideas fit together. And then you say, its chestnut brown fur was so beautiful. I do not believe you. I do not believe that while being stabbed to death, you thought, oh, it's so beautiful. That doesn't quite work for me. So that seems to be an idea from a different descriptive response. Similarly, the eyes. The Be careful with things like its eyes were emerald green like a jewel. An emerald is a jewel. So to say they were emerald green like a jewel, you're actually repeating the same thing. So bear in mind with phrases like emerald green, you've heard them thousands of times, it's easy to forget what they actually mean because you don't think about them, and that's maybe why you should be careful about using them at all. Okay, let's push on to the next one. I know lots of other people have written their comments, but I don't want to get too sidelines and then spend forever on this lesson. So, right, let's think about this phrase, yet the moon, because this is starting the second half of this sentence. You see there's a little comma before it just here. Oops, just here. So something, something, yet the moon, something. This is a but, a yet. So, maybe I want something to happen, but the moon, someone wants something to happen, but the moon does something. But the moon what? What might the moon do? So the main things that the moon does from our point of view is that it reflects light from the sun. And I don't know if you've ever thought about these things, but when the moon is on the opposite side of the earth from the sun, so when you are the sun and this is the earth, and my head isn't the moon, my head's far too big to be the moon. When you are the sun and this is the earth and this is the moon, yeah, okay, it's quite hard doing this the wrong way around. This is so confusing. Yeah, then the moon's sort of here and it reflects the full face. The full face of the moon reflects the sun, so you see a full moon. Then if we imagine the moon being here, kind of next to the earth relative to the sun, that's still you, then this half of the moon here is all lit up, but from the earth, that means I can only see half of the moon lit up. And then when the moon's more around, when it's more around this side, it's mainly the back of the moon that's lit up, so I can only see a very thin sliver of it from the earth. So yeah, you just see that little, even thinner than banana of the moon. So that's kind of why the moon looks different as it goes around through the month, just in case you haven't thought about it in that way. But anyway, that was the science bit. So the moon moves around and can be seen. What does it also? The moon can be seen. It also moves around. So even given night, as the Earth rotates, we get the impression that the moon is moving through the sky. Okay. So let's see, maybe play with those ideas. So, yet the moon moved somewhere. So blah, 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 yet the moon somewhere. So maybe that means that my character that I'm writing about here doesn't want the moon to move. Why would they not want the moon to move? Because they're betting on it not doing, doubt it. Because they don't want time to move on for some reason. They want this moment, they either want this moment to last forever, or they don't want something to happen that will happen after the moon has moved, if that makes sense. So, yeah. So let's say, for example, that you are going to be thrown out of the window in 10 minutes' time. You would like the clock to move very slowly over those 10 minutes. You don't want that time to come any sooner than it has to. So you could maybe imagine something like that. So let's go with that idea. So there's something that I don't want to happen, but the moon is continuing to move as it does. How does the moon move? I suppose it goes out of sight beyond the horizon. But let's say that the moon is kind of at its highest point, it's at its zenith. And you're thinking, just stay up there, don't start falling, please, I don't want this night to end for some reason. But the moon still began to, let's do the second half of this first. Yeah. So something about, for some reason you don't want time to pass, but it is passing. So yet the moon, I'll get rid of these last lines, so I've got writing space. Yet the moon began to sink towards, oops, turn off the bold. Began to sink towards the horizon. So that's very specific. I like to write in a way that's quite specific. You can exactly imagine it isn't disappearing below the horizon, it's just beginning to sink. I'm thinking, oh no, of course time is passing, I can't make this night last forever. So yet the moon began to sink towards the horizon as though, right, okay, yeah, let's carry this on a little bit, with a bit of, bit more descriptive effect. As though, so what might that be? Well, let's imagine you've what else has that kind of arc? I've thrown a ball high, and then there's a moment it seems to hover, and then it falls down again because it can't hold itself up there, okay? So the point is the moon begins to sink as though it's unable to hold itself up, as though it's unable to sustain itself, it's unable to sustain what? Its own weight. As though unable to sustain its own weight. Da da da! Okay, I finished this, but I haven't started it. So, oops, began to sink. We don't want to sink. To Lily the pink. Saviour of the human race. Okay, the moon began to sink towards the horizon as though unable to sustain its own weight. Right, now let's think about the first half of the sentence. So I don't want the moon to set. I want it to stay up there. So let's go with that idea. Again, I know I encourage people to form as much of their sentences in their mind before they write as they can, but I'm trying to show you how I come up with the ideas here. So even though I might store some of these ideas in my head together before I start putting them down on paper, here I'm kind of writing as I come up with them, and of course I'm typing. It's easier to edit than have writing in the exam, so I know that's cheating. But yeah, bold, go away. What's my own fault? I willed the night not to end. Okay. So that will be fine. I willed the night not to end, yet the moon began to sink towards the horizon as though unable to sustain its own weight. You know, I quite like that. I was thinking maybe I could add something in. I willed the night not to end, willing to promise anything for blah, 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 something like that. But I think this works quite well as it is. It's just simple. I willed the night to end, and then comes the interesting image, yet the moon began to sink towards the horizon as though unable to sustain its own weight. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave that as it is. Right, what ideas have we got? Just pick up a couple of them to comment on. Sanvi says, that's not this one. The dark cloudy sky obscured all its surrounds. All its surrounds? I don't think so. All its surroundings, thank you. Yet the moon still glowed its pale light ominously. Surrounds and come on. That moon, the dark cloudy sky obscured all its surroundings, yet the moon still glowed its pale... Still glowed ominously with a pale light, maybe you mean. Yes, okay. Some really nice... Once you untangle the slightly questionable English there. Okay, we're writing quick comments, maybe you're on your phone or something, I don't know, but come on, make an effort. No, some great stuff in here. The only thing really that I wonder about is its in the first part. The dark cloudy sky obscured all its surroundings. Do you mean the surroundings of the sky, which is kind of what you're literally saying, or do you mean the surroundings of the moon, or do you mean the surroundings of something else that you haven't mentioned? Do you mean... do you mean that the... You're talking about the surroundings of the bear, maybe in the clearing? I don't know. So be careful with pronouns like its or his or whatever. Make sure that it's clear which noun or proper noun they refer back to, if that makes sense. Devi, I could glimpse its lumbering shadow. Careful with its, ITS with no apostrophe. IT apostrophe S means it is, okay, which is not what you mean here. I could glimpse its lumbering shadow, yet the moon was covered in clouds. Yes, you could do more than covered in, perhaps. Think about what interesting verbs or images you might use there, but not bad. Okay, let's pull another one out. Nadia says, I had the idea of summoning the power of the elements, yet the moon was too strong and I was lifted off my feet. Yes, I can get it, the image of the wizardry there. So, I've lost it for all my my showboating there. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yet the moon was too strong and I was lifted off my feet. Yeah, I have no idea why the moon would lift you off your feet, but then this is clearly from some kind of sort of swords and sorcery fantasy story. And so who knows what the moon can do in that context. Yeah, I like it. Lots of stuff there. Yeah, lots of ones that kind of have good things, but also I'm just trying to see if I can find something really good to highlight. Okay, so I'm just going as an example of editing. Actually, I'm going to pull out Gaurav's comment in the live comment example answer in the live comments. So Gaurav has written, "I stayed up late to burn the midnight oil while studying it. The moon slept the entire night without moving a muscle." Okay. So I'm actually going to copy that and paste it in here just so we can talk about it, because it's got some really good things and some things that let's paste it as plain text. There we are. Okay, obviously it's been kind of typed in quickly in some comment box. That's why it doesn't have capitals and so on. I'm not too worried about that. Right. "I stayed up late to burn the midnight oil while studying it. The moon slept the entire night without even moving a muscle." So there's lots of imagery in here, and I like that because there's a lot of effort gone into it. And I think it can benefit from being simplified a lot, and then the core of this will be really good. So I stayed up late to burn the midnight oil while studying. I stayed up late and I burnt the midnight oil. These mean the same things. Burnt the midnight oil is a conventional image to show staying up late. Okay? So it would be either I burnt the midnight oil while studying or I stayed up late. Burn the midnight oil is a very conventional image by now. It's often used, so I would avoid it, I'm afraid to say. So I stayed up late to study. Okay? Really simple. Yet the moon slept the entire night without even moving a muscle. Well, the point you're trying to make is the moon slept. It never rose. So you don't actually know whether it moved a muscle while sleeping, because the point is it didn't turn up. So this second part, for one thing, it kind of repeats the same idea, and for another, it doesn't quite work with the image that you're going for. So we get rid of that too. I stayed up late to study, yet the moon slept the entire night. Okay. And now we've got something that's short and simple but works. It's got one core image in it, which is of the moon being lazy while you're hard working. And we can see that, and we can imagine the moon just not bothering to come up, and throughout the night you glance out the window, think, is the moon there? Yep, nope, still studying. It's 4 a.m, still studying, no moon. And I like that, the core of what you had, but we've actually got rid of probably the two ideas that you thought were best, but they weren't the best things. The best thing was the overall idea, and that's what we've released by doing this. I hope that makes sense. I'm a big fan of deleting stuff. Okay, next one. A stifling fog coated the... So what might fog coat that has some sort of drum? Where's fog likely to be? Where might you notice fog? Well, I think the classic place to notice fog is in a car in the early morning. I bet you've noticed fog. You know, your memories of fog will be dominated by driving to school on some winter's mornings, I would guess. So, spring or autumn or whatever, lots of times a year. Fog. It happens. A stifling fog coated the road, let's be more specific, the motorway. Why am I being more specific? Just because it helps the reader to imagine nice and precisely the scene that I'm trying to create. A stifling fog coated the motorway. Okay. So what? There was no traffic? That's boring. I want some traffic to describe. So although there was fog, there was still traffic. So yet, or but, yet, still, there were cars. What were the cars doing? They were passing. Why is passing or passed in worth including as a verb? Well, because it tells you something about the narrator. It says that the narrator describing the scene is next to the road if these things passed them. So that gives you a sense of perspective and helps you to visualise the scene in the way that the writer wants you to. So these little clues can be useful. Yet still past, it's not spelled past, that is a different word. Yet still past, no, yet still there past a regular stream of traffic. Let's be more specific. What kind of traffic? Of cars and lorries. Why not just say traffic? Well, I could, but by saying cars and lorries, I'm reminding you to imagine both. Yet still there past a regular stream. Why regular? Because I'm trying to say that they didn't, it wasn't all chaos and everyone kind of, all the cars trying to push each other out the way and go on, stop slowing down just because there's fog doesn't mean you can't drive at 110 miles an hour. No, they're steady, they're moving through, How are they moving through? This is really thick fog. It's stifling, like it's choking you. So what's that like? Well, it's interesting because it's like something that is maybe liquid, really a very viscous liquid. So what are these vehicles doing? Well, if you're in a really thick liquid and you're trying to move along, how do you move? You can't just swim in your front crawl. You've got to kind of push your way through. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're in sort of quicksand, you're trying to get out, and that's not the way to do it. You should go around in circles in quicksand, actually, or move into your belly, but be that as it may. Now you're trying to work your way through this mud, and you're kind of elbowing your way, I like that, elbowing your way through, past a regular stream of cars and lorries, all elbowing. What does that say? All determinedly, I think I'll say. All determinedly elbowing their way through. I've said the stifling fog, but rather than just repeating that idea, let's be more specific through the. What's the texture of this that I've shown with this? Dense, viscous, gloopy. That makes it seem like a sort of disgusting sort of liquid. Through the gloopy murk. Okay, murk. Or how about muck, actually, because it's a bit more disgusting, and it gives the idea it's kind of dirty fog with this kind of sort of one unhealthy sort of lights to the vehicles or whatever. Stifling fog coated the motorway, yet still there passed a regular stream of cars and lorries, all determinedly elbowing their way through the gloopy muck. I often say that people should be hesitant about with adverbs, because often you don't need the adverb, often a better verb will do. So here we've got a really precise verb, elbowing, and you might well say that if you elbow your way through something, that shows that you're determined. So the word determinedly is unnecessary because it's already included. Let's try that. Yet still there passed a regular stream of cars and lorries, all elbowing their way through gloopy murk, through the gloopy murk. That's better. All elbowing their way through the gloopy murk. Yeah. I kind of like determinedly. It just really emphasises the point for the reader that, first of all, they're very civilised and orderly, so they move in sort of regular fashion, even though it's foggy and the traffic is, I imagine, slow. And I'm just going to go with determinedly. It feels better to me. The rhythm is more what I'm after from the sentence, even though its meaning might be slightly redundant. I try not to be too dogmatic about these things. Right. Ahmad, what does gloopy muck mean? Well, muck is a kind of dirty liquid, basically, and gloopy it describes a movement. It gloops, and gloop is probably originally an onomatopoeia. It's the way that a really viscous, thick liquid kind of goes gloop, 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 gloop. And I'm imagining the way that the fog kind of splurges out and then settles in behind each vehicle as it passes through. That's what's in my head. So that's what I'm going with gloopy. Really thick? Really? Alright, thick. It's really thick. No, it's really thick and viscous. Okay, on to the last one. Don't worry, it's the last one. I wish I could tell you, she said. Her eyes... Okay, so what might her eyes be doing, this person? Am I still broadcasting to all channels? Yes, I am. It's a miracle. I don't think even going to Facebook, that's still up and running. Fantabulous. Good. Just checking on even I'm not using the laptop to write on today. I'm keeping my eye on what's happening. I wish I could tell you, she said. Her eyes, what might they do? Okay. So if I'm imagining the scene, I'm imagining somebody saying, I wish I could tell you. That implies to me a kind of embarrassment. Either they can't tell me because they don't know, and not knowing the answer to a question is often a little bit embarrassing, depending on the context. Or she's not telling me because she doesn't want me to know something, so it's a secret. So in either of these situations, it's a kind of embarrassment. So in that situation, somebody maybe struggles to meet your eyes. So maybe rather than going, I wish I could tell you, they're going, I wish I could tell you. Or something. I'm not the world's greatest actor, but I'm trying to act it in my mind still. That's really important when you're writing creatively. So that's the natural thing to go with. So precisely for that reason, I'm just going to go with something different. And I'm going to have her keeping eye contact with me. I wish I could tell you. So what does that mean? It's kind of like a challenge. If someone who wouldn't ordinarily pull their eyes away keeps them fixed on you. It's like they're challenging you in some way. They're challenging you to say, I don't believe you. Yeah, let's go with that. Her eyes never leaving mine. As though challenging me. Challenging you to a duel. We need to be a little bit more specific for the sake of the reader. As though challenging me to doubt her. Her eyes never leaving mine. As though challenging me to doubt her. Now, her eyes... We could have a phrase, instead of leaving, we could have her eyes never straying from mine. Her eyes never wavering from mine. Either of those is fine. A little bit conventional. Both of those, I think. Talk about eyes not straying, eyes not wavering. I've seen those phrases quite a lot of times. If I've seen something quite a lot of times, I would usually decide not to say it. It's like a conventional phrase. Then again, wavering does have quite a specific meaning too, because leaving or straying means she didn't stop looking at me. But never wavering means she didn't stop even a tiny bit. It wasn't as though she was looking at you and her eyes could still sort of move across your face. Her eyes were locked on yours. They never wavered. They never quivered. What'd she say? Yeah. I wish I could tell you. Oh, that's quite a challenge. Pretty aggressive. So I'm going to, even though that's quite a conventional phrase, I'm going to use it because I think it serves my purpose. So if you've seen something, a verb or a phrase, whatever, lots of times before, if it's a bit of a cliche, that doesn't mean you can't use it. It means you should only use it if you've got a really good reason to. And I think I do have a good reason to here. Her eyes never wavering from mine, as though challenging me to doubt her. Yeah. Is there anything more that I could do with this? Because, yeah, I want to know, I'm just kind of interested. I want to know more about this person. This is the last exercise, so I'm just going to take a little bit more time to do something with it. So never wavering from mine, as though challenging me to doubt her. But I did doubt her. I couldn't help doubting her. Why? Something else on her face. On her face. Yet I did doubt her. Not just because she was staring at me, but yet I did doubt her. I doubted her because she was staring at me weirdly. But also maybe, so if you're lying to somebody like that, and you're just a pretty bold, abrasive liar, but you also find it, you're maybe proud of yourself, or you find yourself slightly ridiculous, maybe there's just a slight hint of a smirk, and that makes you seem like a nasty character. So let's go with that. Let's make her seem like a nasty character. So yet I did doubt her. So how would you describe that? That sort of slight, again, we're acting. You should be acting yourselves as well. You should be trying this yourself in front of your computer now as you watch, trying to find ways of showing that untrustworthiness in your face as you say this. I wish I could tell you, she said. I wish I could tell you, she said. What am I going with there to show a little smirk? I'm twitching my lip a little bit, just a tiny bit. Little twitch of the lips, like I'm suppressing a laugh or a little smile, because I'm trying to stay serious, because I want to be believed, just not that much. Yet I did doubt her, because I saw her lips twitch. Okay, I reckon we can improve this. Saw her lips twitch. Okay, yet I did doubt her, but I think you doubted her anyway, because she was staring at you like a crazy. Okay, so yet I did doubt her. So rather than because, all the more so you already doubted, this made you doubt her more, all the more so as I saw her lips twitch. Okay? Okay, her eyes were never wavering from mine, so all the more so as my eyes saw her lips twitch. But then your eyes saw, of course they saw, that's what eyes do. caught her lips twitch, caught the twitch of her lips, caught the twitch. How about twitch? Let's make it a bit more sneering, a bit more scornful. The curl of her lips. Caught the... If you caught it, that means it's not obvious. Caught the faint curl of her lips. Yet I did doubt her. All the more so as my eyes caught the faint curl of her lips. Is she curling her lips on purpose because she wants to mock me? Or is it because she just can't keep down the hilarity of this great big whopper of a lie that she's somehow telling me? I think it's that one. So the faint but irrepressible. So it's not that she wants to show me she's lying, it's that she can't help it, she can't repress that. Yet I did doubt her, all the more so as my eyes caught the faint but irrepressible curl of her lips. Okay? I'm happy with that. I hope you are too. Right, quick look at what's going on here. Ippy says, I wish I could tell you. She said her eyes were... Oh, see a new sentence here, I hope. Her eyes were glistening in the diamond blue water. Her light brown eyes were as beautiful as a dolphin. Her lightly blonde hair swished in the air as she rotated. I don't quite get this. Her eyes are in the water, yet a blonde hair swished in the air. So her eyes are under the water, but her hair is actually free of the surface of water so it can swish in the air. So how is it not at least resting on the water and probably sank up? I can't quite imagine what's going on here. You've got to be careful that everything you write fits together, that it isn't just a list of nice ideas that don't quite cohere. They have to belong together in a meaningful way. Hey. I wish I could tell you, she said her eyes filled up with tears. How about her eyes filling up with tears? Falling down onto her thigh, talking about her father's murder. That means her eyes were falling onto her thigh and her eyes were talking about her father's murder, which is quite a lot for a pair of eyeballs to do. Careful with the grammar there. My general impression about these comments is there are loads of really good ideas, for which fantastic, but they're generally not rounded and complete versions. Maybe perhaps because you're just whacking them out into the comments and desperate for people to see them, which is great. I like that you want to put your ideas out there. I think what you need to do, take your ideas that you put in the instant comments, take them away, copy them, put them into a document somewhere, and then edit them to make them fantastic. And then when you're really, really happy with them and you've checked the grammar, please check the grammar, then you put them into a comment under the final video, not the live comments, and then I'll have a look, okay? And that's probably going to mean that your ideas are better than they are at the moment, because as I said, at the moment I get some good starting points there, but they aren't quite complete. Okay, and moving on to today's tip of the week. It's the tip of the week. So today's tip of the week. No, I can't maintain that, okay? It's just, I can be pretentious, but there's only so pretentious I can be. No, there's no limit to how pretentious I can be. Let's do it. Okay, today's tip of the week is brought to you by, I don't know who it's brought to you by, it's brought to you by Moomin House Coffee. Okay, so with Moomin House Coffee, which doesn't exist, I offer you this pearl of advice. So today we've been looking at some descriptive writing exercises, and you're going to be doing a lot of writing exercises if there is creative writing in your 11 plus exam. And you're going to be writing a lot of stories that are about a page and a quarter in length, very likely, and which need to have one main point that you aim for, and need to develop character in a certain way, and need to show some descriptive skills, and you see what I mean. For all the try to encourage freedom and creativity, we all know that creative writing for in a particular exam can get a bit formulaic. You end up doing certain things because you know they're going to impress the marker, even if your heart isn't always completely in them, and so on. And of course that's got its place. You're writing for an exam, you have to play the game, and it can be useful to learn these things. But if you want to keep your writing going and keep the love of writing that you probably had when you were just writing stories for fun, that means do some other writing as well that is not to be marked, that is not for the 11 plus. And my tip of the week today is just keep writing. And write some stories that are not for exams, that don't need to follow the rules, even the ones that I teach. Just so you can keep experimenting, keep remembering that writing is about joy and about creativity and not just about passing exams. So keep on writing and keep enjoying it, and don't think about 11 plus all the time. Okay, enough of that, and it's time for Inevitably your questions. If I can find any questions past all the examples of potential responses. So Raya says, can I please have an 11 plus pen because I tried to buy it because I couldn't? Can I please have Windsor Palace? Because I tried so hard to buy it, but they just wouldn't let me. Windsor Castle, sorry, Windsor Castle. They wouldn't let me buy Windsor Palace because it doesn't exist. I don't know why you couldn't buy it. It only costs £2, and you can use any payment card or Apple Pay or Google Pay or Google Pay or whatever it might be. If you couldn't make the purchase work, then maybe you should send me an email and I'll have a look into it. You have to earn a free pen on this channel. You have to earn a free pen. What other questions have we got? Krishna says, tippy time with suspicious Robert. It's true, I'm suspicious. I suspect you of everything. Gaurav says, what's tip time? I'm new. It's when I give a tip, and that was particularly, I don't know, it wasn't my best tip. Maybe it's useful for somebody. At least it isn't a recycled tip. The trouble is, I've now done so many of these lessons, what's this, lesson 54 or something, and that's only the live ones, that I'm kind of running out of new tips, and I tend to repeat quite a lot of tips that I've used before but people might not have heard. So that was a new one, at least. You should be honoured to have been here for a new tip. Amanda, can we do probability? I've already covered probability, actually. Go and look in the maths playlists on the channel. You'll find some probability. But I may well cover it again in the future. Can you use speech in descriptive writing? Definitely the answer is yes, although there are a couple of issues with this. First of all, the phrase descriptive writing can mean, this is from Nadia B, by the way, thank you for your question. Descriptive writing can cover a host of sins. What do you mean by descriptive writing? I mean, all creative writing really is descriptive one way or another, pretty much. Generally, yes, unless it's a task which quite clearly doesn't want speech. So let's say, for example, that you have the task of describing an empty room with nobody there. If you start putting speech in that, you're probably not describing the empty room with nobody there. So in that task, you probably would not use speech. So use your common sense here. The thing about speech, about dialogue, which you can see I've got my feet up under the desk on a chair opposite. I'm just chilling now. I'm just chilling. Let's pull the camera down. That's it. We can all relax now. The main part of the lesson is done. So, can you hear the birds tweeting there? It's lovely. Oh, lovely. So relaxed. So wait, with descriptive writing. So if you've got a task where you could put some speech in, just be careful not to overdo it, because there's a difference between including a couple of lines of dialogue to bring out some character and to show that you know how to write speech grammatically, and writing 8 lines of dialogue, which is going to be way too much in an exam story, because you've already used a really big chunk of your writing, which just looks like a play script. So you mustn't fall into writing something that looks like a little bit of play script, and that's the thing to avoid. Another thing to avoid, I came across this in a bit of marking I did the other day, actually, it made me think about it. If you're going to have your characters talking, at least make them say something interesting. So someone wrote something, I'm sorry if it was you, I'm not trying to pick on you, it just comes to mind as an example. Someone had walked into a room to meet somebody, and one character said something like, said, "Good morning, it's good to see you," she said. And the next character says, "Good morning to you as well, madam," she replied. That exchange, nothing wrong with it, but it tells me nothing about these characters, apart from that they're reasonably polite. So you've used up a couple of lines of your story doing something that has no real interest and doesn't tell me anything about the characters. So I don't think you needed to include that speech. And if you're going to include speech, then have them say something. Then have them say something interesting. What in all the devil's heavens are you doing in this room? You of all people. I'd much rather read that than someone say, "Good morning, sir." Anyway, you see what I'm getting at. So if you're going to do dialogue, don't take up too much space and don't be boring. Right, what other questions have we got to do? Can you do a competition for the pen, please? I mean, it's kind of a competition every week, because it's a competition for people to write something really interesting and earn the pen. Yeah, maybe I'll do some more competitions and so on at some point. Although I kind of wonder whether a pen might be a really pretty rubbishy prize if I actually did a proper competition. I mean, come on, it's just a biro. It's a great biro. It's a great biro with my face on. What more could you want from a biro? But it's still just a biro. Swami says, what subjects are you teaching? You're obviously new to the channel, so welcome. And the answer to that question is lots. I mean, all the 11 plus subjects, but also lots of different topics within them. Easiest thing to do is go to the channel and have a look. How do you go to the channel? So you're watching this under the video, probably somewhere like about there. Is a circle with my face in with a blue background. I'm going something like, or something. Click on that, it'll take you to the channel homepage. Don't click on listen until I finish the lesson. And you will find lots of playlists with lots of my videos covering lots of different subject areas. And you'll find maths, English, creative writing, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. But within the English, you'll find creative writing, descriptive writing, probably essay writing, comprehension, multiple choice comprehension, blah, blah, blah. Within maths, you find all sorts of topics. I'm so excited by this, I'm about to sneeze. It's coming. It's coming. Oh, explosive. I'm terribly sorry. I could have muted the mic, I suppose. That would probably have saved your ears. Sorry to anyone who's listened to this with headphones, is probably now deaf and can't hear me saying sorry. Anyway, all right, if you've got any other good questions. How do you check over our grammar? There are lots of ways, but the main thing I say to people is to read your work out loud. Read each sentence out loud and listen to the pauses. Particularly, it's good for punctuation. And as you go, think about things like look out for words that end in S. Yeah, this is the other thing. So one thing is read out loud and listen for the natural pauses and get used to thinking this is a pause I could have a sip of coffee in. And if I can have a sip of coffee in, the pause is probably a full stop. If I get to a pause, but I couldn't really have a sip of coffee in it like that one, that's almost certainly a comma. And I've got a whole video on that. It's the one, it's on punctuation. So if you search for punctuation on the channel, you'll find it. It's got the cover image has got me holding a massive comma, I think. It's like me holding a comma like this, being a bit horrified by it. I think I'm cross-eyed looking at the comma. That's it, massive blue comma. So look up one with a massive blue comma, that's useful. Other things that are useful, to be honest, the most useful... Sorry, I need to blow my nose, so we'll stop the microphone with this because it's a little bit... Nobody wants to hear me snotting. The other things, to be honest, they're kind of, you need to customize them for yourself. And this is where self-knowledge is so important, because you need to know what your most habitual mistakes are. So let's say, for example, you often get apostrophes wrong. So the starting point for you there, it won't catch everything, but it's a really good starting point, is to look out for all words that end in the letter S. And when there's a word that ends in the letter S, look at it closely and go, is this a possessive that needs an apostrophe? And that would be a really good grammar checklist starting point for you as someone who gets apostrophes wrong. You see what I mean? You need to work out the mistakes that you make and get used to spotting them. Someone who misspells there with ERE and there with EIR and there with THEY apostrophe RE. Look out for all instances of there, in all instances of there, and check them. Check them until you're certain. You get the idea. Right, people, I am going to... someone wants to know what literacy techniques you recommend. I mean, literacy, knowing how to read and write, all techniques that allow you to read and write, and doing lots of reading and lots of writing is the starting point. If by the question you were misspelling literary techniques, so what sort of writing methods? Well, I mean, there's a pretty useful starting point of a list in the worksheet here. Look, there's a nice list here of literary techniques that you might consider using. Okay, thank you to Poem70 here. Bless you when I sneezed. I think that's someone who's watching the video a few minutes delayed because they came to the lesson late, but thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, I am going to call it a day there. It's been fantastic to have you here. Thank you everybody for coming along. Please explore the links in the video description and experiment with the free resources. If you go and sign up for those free resources, that also puts you on the mailing list. That means that you get the worksheet for each Easy 11 Plus lesson a few days early. And that means that you can practice before the lesson and get a sneaky head start. Someone wants me to do maths number sequences. Look on the channel, I did that months ago. In fact, there's more than one lesson about that. But yeah, Apart from all that, please invite your friends, bring them along to this channel. If you've brought loads of people along and you know that your friends have watched because of you, send me a message and I'll send you a pen because you certainly earned it if you do that, but do not lie to me. Of course you wouldn't lie. You're Easy 11 Plus viewers. You're the best people in the world. It's been fantastic to have you here. I look forward to seeing you at 6 o'clock next Tuesday evening. And until then, you can watch this video that will appear here magically, by the way. Unless it pops up, it'll be great. Watch it. Don't click away. Stay on the channel. Blah, blah, blah. I'll see you next week, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. I'm rambling like a something or other, so I think I'm going to stop there. It's been fantastic to see you. Bye-bye.